What if I told you that the world you see outside your window, the mountains, the oceans, even the fossils buried deep underground, wasn't shaped slowly over millions of years? What if it was all formed in a single catastrophic event that happened much more recently? Today, we're diving into a fascinating theory from researcher Darrell Waters that pretty much challenges everything we think we know about our planet's recent past.
Okay, first things first, and this is absolutely critical. We need to get one thing straight. This is not the young Earth theory you might have heard of. The idea we're exploring today completely accepts that our planet is about 4.5 billion years old. The radical part is the claim that this ancient Earth had its entire surface violently reshaped in the not-so-distant past.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. The source paper itself puts it front and center, stating, quote, "This is not a young Earth argument. It is a young surface argument." So the age of the planet itself? Not in question. The age of the ground beneath our feet? Well, that's a whole other story.
Now I know what you're thinking. A planet-altering catastrophe sounds a bit like something out of a movie. But, mainstream science already has a huge precedent for this kind of thing. The leading theory for how we got our moon is the Theia impact, an ancient collision so incredibly violent it literally reshaped the entire planet. So this new theory is really just asking, what if that wasn't the only time it happened?
So, what would make someone propose such a wild idea? Well, it all starts with a few documented puzzles, real, scientific anomalies in the geological and astronomical records that our current models have a really tough time explaining with a single neat answer. The theory suggests that these aren't just a bunch of separate, unrelated head-scratchers. Instead, what if they're all clues pointing to the same thing? A single, massive, missing chapter in our planet's history.
Let's start with puzzle number 1. This is what's known as a polystrate fossil. What we're looking at here is a fossilized tree.
And the really weird part? It's standing perfectly upright, cutting right through multiple layers of rock that are supposed to represent millions of years of slow, gradual buildup. So think about that. How could a tree just stand there for eons without rotting or falling over, while sediment slowly buried it? It's a major paradox for the standard model. Okay, now for puzzle number 2. Let's look up this. This is the moon we all know and love, right? The near side, the face it always shows us. But of course, the moon has a secret, a hidden face, the far side, and it looks completely different. This isn't speculation. This is a well-documented mystery that's been puzzling scientists for decades, ever since we first sent probes around to the back. And when you look at the data, the contrast is just stark. The side facing us has a much thinner crust, and it's covered in these huge, dark volcanic plains called Maria. But the far side? Nope. The crust is way thicker, it's covered in craters, and there's almost no Maria at all. Why? Why would one half of the moon be so fundamentally different from the other? There's still no real consensus. So this unified theory comes along and proposes one single, incredibly violent event to solve all of these puzzles at once. It calls it the global rupture event. Now, the key ingredient for this catastrophe is something called supercritical water. When you take water and subject it to unbelievable heat and pressure, like deep beneath the Earth's crust, it enters this really bizarre state. It's as dense as a liquid, but it flows with almost no resistance, like a gas. It's basically a fluid packed with an insane amount of explosive energy. So the theory lays out this 4-stage chain reaction. First, this huge, global, underground ocean of supercritical water just builds and builds in pressure. Then, the crust can't take it anymore. A crack forms, and it rips across the entire planet like the seam on a baseball. Third, you get the explosive decompression. All that super-energized water erupts with a force that's just unimaginable. And finally, and this is the craziest part, the continents themselves literally hydroplane across the surface on this super-slick layer of erupting fluid, moving at meters per second. Not the slow crawl of centimeters per year we're used to.
So that is a wild story. But how does this one single event connect back to the puzzles we started with? Well, this is where the unified part of the theory really comes into play.
Let's connect the dots. Those fossilized trees standing straight up, they weren't buried over eons. They were buried in a matter of hours or days by continent-sized floods that dumped massive amounts of sediment all at once. And the moon's 2 different faces? The theory claims a powerful jet of water and rock was ejected from Earth during the rupture, and it literally blasted the near side of the moon, thinning its crust and triggering all that volcanic activity that formed the dark plains. One event, 2 big mysteries. Solved. But look, a good story is just a story unless you can actually test it. And this is where the theory gets really compelling. It proposes that there's a smoking gun out there, a piece of physical evidence hidden inside some of the oldest living things on our entire planet, the giant sequoias.
The prediction is incredibly specific. The idea is, if the oldest of these trees survived this event, their wood would be a perfect physical archive. The theory says the innermost core of the tree would be ring-free, from a time before the event, when the world didn't have seasons. But then, all of a sudden, you'd see annual rings appear and continue all the way to the bark. That very first ring wouldn't mark the tree's first year of life. It would mark the world's first year of having seasons.
And right at that exact boundary layer between the ring-free wood and the ringed wood, the theory says we should find 3 things. 1, the physical change in the wood itself. 2, an iridium anomaly, a chemical fingerprint of material from deep within the Earth's mantle being blasted to the surface. And 3, maybe even tiny trapped gas bubbles from a pre-event atmosphere that could have a totally different composition than our air today.
Now, here is the absolute best part. The paper makes it crystal clear that this is not just some thought experiment. We don't need to harm any of these ancient, majestic trees. Core samples from giant sequoias already exist right now, sitting in university archives. The technology to run these tests exists. This theory can be verified or proven false today.
This table basically lays it all out. These are the most direct, testable predictions. You can analyze the existing sequoia samples for iridium. You can look at other ancient wood fragments. You can even reanalyze the Apollo moon rocks to look for bits of Earth's crust. It's a direct challenge, an open invitation to the scientific community to go and check the data.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty mind-bending question. This theory is, without a doubt, a radical departure from mainstream geology. But just imagine for a second, if a physical marker, a spike of iridium, was found in a single tree ring that marked the day the world as we know it began. What would that mean for everything we think we know about our own planet's history?